Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Natasha Telger with Illinois WorkNet, and then we have Aaron Hacker with DHS on as well.
Good afternoon.
So today, some of the things that we're going to cover, we're going to look at the dashboard. It was pushed out to production, so I'll just quickly go over that. I'll just show you some of the updates that were made in the progress page, because I know a couple of people had noticed some things that needed to be updated, so we did those. And then I was going to cover the NOCTI, and because some people had some questions about NOCTI. And then I wasn't sure, was there anything else that you had wanted to specifically cover today, Aaron?
I don't have anything in particular that I can think of. If any of our providers have specific questions, though, this is a great time to field those. So after we cover some of the things that we've got on the agenda today, if we've got any extra time, we can go ahead and cover anything else. I do have to apologize because I have another meeting today at 2 o'clock. And so if we go past 2 o'clock, I may have to just let Natasha conclude that today, but I will stay on as long as I can.
Okay. It looks like we did have one question up there. I don't know if you want to go ahead and address that one, Aaron, because I don't know if I missed. I need to know if we post our monthly report.
So if we're talking about our monthly expenditure documentation form, our EDF form, those are due on a monthly basis. I would just say send those as soon as you can if you happen to miss that. If you're talking about the performance report, there are a couple things. Now, we did have monthly performance reports in FY17. However, we changed the contract language for FY18 to reflect quarterly reports, and that's because in general that's what's required in our standard contract boilerplate, our quarterly reports. And so there's some not so much confusion, but just kind of working out the details, I guess, for that we had, our first quarter was not a complete quarter. So, we missed altogether the first quarter of the year of July, August, and September. We missed the month of October, too, and started up in November. So the second quarter of the year, which would have been our first quarter of reporting, really, would have covered the periods of November and December. I am not incredibly concerned about that time frame, just because I know a lot of our providers don't have tons to report as of that first 2-month period, because, in terms of things like job placements, because would have been in the midst of recruiting youth and doing some initial training and hiring staff. And so while we do need to eventually report for those things, the goal, and something I've been working towards with Natasha basically since we entered into this partnership with the WorkNet, is to be able to produce performance reports from the Illinois WorkNet. There's a standard performance report form that's out there, and I say out there, it's on the Illinois GATA website, the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, and it's a standard form that's been produced by the Governor's Office of Management and Budget, and it's just called the PPR, the Periodic Performance Report. And I spoke with Natasha just the other day, and I haven't even had a chance to get this to you, Natasha, but this is the standard PDF form that we're going to see if we can either create a duplicate of it that we can have pre-populated by WorkNet data, or if we can even just populate this form. So, Tyron, it depends on what report you're talking about, I guess, but the monthly financial reports are turned in by the 15th of each month, and those, if you haven't sent them, you can just send them. The expenditure reports, by the way, and I'll type in the email address here, but the expenditure reports and any other grant documentation or anything like that go to dhs.youthservicesinfo@illinois.gov. And so there is the email address there that you can send your monthly expenditure reports to. But the performance reports, okay, it looks like that's what you were concerned with. So the performance reports, right now, just hold off. Now, you still need to be collecting, and saving information. So, for example, you know, as you're serving youth, you still need to have files for those youth. You still need to have, you know, the files for your employer agreements and things like that. But as far as reporting that activity, what we're going to do is we're looking to create a report that will automatically generate based on the performance measures. Those are the things that will be in the report, are the performance measures that are in your contract and completion of those performance measures. And Natasha, as you go along, I might see if I can pull up that list of performance measures our grantees do, just so they know in case they don't have their contracts in front of them. That way everybody kind of knows. But I don't want to sidetrack what you've got today, so I will let you get to that, but I will see what I can find maybe to share with our providers here during the webinar.
Okay, great. So I want to start out with just, again, making sure everybody knows we have the partner guide that's available, and it's illinoisworknet.com/CYEP partners, and I'll put that in the chat in just a minute. But
I still receive a few requests every week for new staff who are requesting access to your partner accounts too. So as that happens, they go to info@illinoisworknet.com, and then the WorkNet checks with me. So I'm still getting those requests. So I know we've got a handful of new staff getting access to.
Good. Yep. So this is helpful. You know, just so if you are new to the system, you can go to this page, and you can access the link to the tools and some resources, and then some previous webinars as well. So this is just one of the ways that you can get to these tools. I want to show you that I did add some new instructions, and those cover the dashboard, the intake dashboard that is available in production as well. So if I go to my partner tools, I should have my screen up already. So you're going to go to a customer list, and I'm actually in production right now, so I have this pulled up directly to the dashboard so that it doesn't show any of the actual customers' information. This just shows you an overview. So you'll see that you'll see your listing up here as the grantee. You can sort this by the in-school, out-of-school use, or if the customer information is not set, and you can filter that for this dashboard. You can see the people that have started an application. So each of these areas, so this is a yellowish area, and then we have a little triangle here so that you can easily see and tell that this is an area that needs action. We have these info bubbles. So whenever you select it, right now, if they move it into production, my info bubbles aren't showing up. So I will talk to my programmer and make sure the info bubbles show up, because those are important. They do show when they show you where it's coming from. So if you're wondering, you know, what is the criteria that would put a customer in this area, then you can click on the info bubbles and see that criteria. So in this case, you have a person that started an application, and if that basically means they just literally started the application, they agreed to the terms of use, and once they get to the point of selecting a provider, then they'll show up in your list, and you can see all those people that have started an application and selected you as the provider. Now, when a person has started their application and they haven't completed it within the 5 days, and we just use 5 days as a standard across the board. There's nothing like really magical about 5 days, other than we wanted to try to keep it as consistent as possible throughout the system, so you're not sitting there going, well, is that one of those 5-day items or a 10-day item? So just generically speaking, it's 5 days across the board. That may change over time, but that's how we're starting out. And so it's kind of like whenever they're in this yellow area, this is where action is needed. And if you can't get these down these numbers down to, 0. We try to always keep the yellow line as a 0. Then they're going to move on down to the red line. And the red line is like an alert. So basically it's to say, hey, you've had these people that were in the other section that needed action. They've been in there for 5 days, so we need to do something with them. And we have provided next steps. So whenever you click on the next steps, then it gives you some text about what we suggest that you do. And then it also provides links to instructions. So, if you ever needed more information or, this isn't really clear, just let us know and we can update that. That's text. That's really a very simple change. The idea is that what we want to do is provide you with the tools to be able to see and easily access a filtered list of customers. But not only that, we want to tell you where the data is coming from. So if you're ever wondering, like, how do I get this person to move down to the next line, you'll know. And whenever they go to these areas where we're saying, hey, everybody, you need to do something with these people, we want to bring the information to you so you don't have to go look for it in the partner guide. All this information is in the partner guide, but we want to bring it to you where you are at that point in time. That's our goal. So let's say you have a person that's been in this line item for, they just moved into that line item, and you're like, oh, right away, I need to do something with this person. Then you go ahead and contact them, they complete their application, and maybe all they have to do is literally click the submit button. So they click the submit button, and now they're in the green. Or maybe they started out the application and they realize that the customer is not eligible. So our system will take a look at that and take the people that are not eligible because they'll never be able to fully submit the application, and they'll put them into this line item. So yellow is you need to do something with them. Red is they have been past due. They really, really need to have something done with them. Green is that you're good to go. And gray is kind of like you're grayed out. This is your stopping point, and we're not going to move you any further along. So then we have, again, the yellow. So it looks like there's quite a few people right now that need to have their program eligibility verified. And so I can go to that page and just kind of quickly go over those steps because I really hate to have 614 people move on to the next red area. If we can chip away at those and get those done, then that's great. If you happen to see something and you see that they're not moving through the dashboard the way that they're supposed to, then let me know. We have been testing it and it was all working. So, but again, if you ever see anything that seems like it's off, then you please let me know right away so we can make sure it's fixed. So once they have had their eligibility verified, then they're ready for enrollment. And you can also see that if they're verified as not eligible, again, they're in the gray area, which means they're not moving forward any because they're not eligible. The next area, we have a yellow line for partner contact not identified. It's important that you have the contacts identified because when we use notifications, then you're going to receive notifications about that person, or if there's case notes that you use that as a communication tool, then those people that are the contacts for that person are the people that are going to be added that you can use the case note tool for as a communication tool. Or you can, if again the system-generated notifications, you want to make sure you're getting those, and so it's important to have the partner contacts listed there. We don't have it as a red line underneath it, if it's not done within 5 days, but just know that please do make sure that a partner contact is identified for each person, and we'll be monitoring those, to help remind people. Then we have the enrollment status because we need to know who's enrolled and who's not, and who needs to have that information updated. So that's, again, in this yellow area. And if they haven't been enrolled or had some type of action taken on their enrollment status within 5 days after their application date, then they'll move on to the red area. And again, we do the next steps, tell you where to go and update the information. The white areas, that's just kind of a information FYI area. If they are enrolled and on a waiting list, we don't have any of like the 5-day time limit or anything like that on a waiting list because there's nothing really set in the procedures or anything about how long a person can be on a waiting list. But, you know, and I don't really know if there's like what the good guideline is. You know, if it's a month or 2 months, we'll leave that up to you unless Aaron has something to say.
I don't have anything specific, but
yeah, the idea is we just don't want them to just sit there. If you know if you know you're never going to enroll them, then just go ahead and put them in the provider not willing to enroll.
Yeah, we're trying to keep them out of the WorkNet purgatory here, where they're just going to be stuck forever, and the data's there, but it's no longer really active. We want to do something with it.
Yes. So that's the real kind of quick overview of the dashboard. I did want to point out on some of these notes, especially if you're familiar with our dashboards and kind of how they kind of work and filter through. I wanted to make sure, we've had some questions in the past about, well, how do I know, if the people that are up in this application status are moving down to the next one, and how can I tell? And so we've added these notes. For example, this customers must have submitted an application before they'll appear in this section. So we may have 749 people that have ever, started an application, but only this part that's in the green, the 645, is going to move down to the next section. So you can see this green number matches up with this number. And then you can see in the next one, only customers that must have verified as either verified, must have verified as eligible status, kind of weird, before they will appear in this section. So they must be in this green area before they'll move on down to the customer enrollment, because you have to verify their eligibility before we even, consider enrolling them into the program. So you can see that we have 31 up here, and then you can see the next one, the total down here is 31. So whenever you look at your dashboard, you can just use that as a quick check, to see kind of how people are flowing through. You can see all the submitted, where your total for your submitted, totals that are verified eligible should match up the total that's down here in this area. So that's your intake dashboard, and we're still working on some additional dashboards that we'll be putting out into production as well. Now the next area is the progress page, and so I'll just click on a person. And it looks like in production that a lot of them, these people had to have their eligibility verified. So you do this on the progress page. So go to progress page. Oh, first of all, if you don't have the contacts, add the contacts. If you haven't verified their eligibility, then go ahead and do so. You're going to have, these are the initial eligibility questions that were asked. So these are being pulled in from the application. You can update them, and then once you have verified that this information is accurate, you have the documentation, you can click that you have verified that area. You only technically have to have one of these items to show that they're eligible, but you can select as many as apply as long as you have, can show and click that you verified that you have the documentation to support that. And if you don't, then you can just simply uncheck it. These checkboxes come they're pulled in from the customer's application. So if they said that they're homeless and you're like, well, are you really homeless? They're like, no, I hit it on accident. Not a problem. You just uncheck it. And then we ask this final question, did you hear about it through your local FCRC? This is not used for eligibility purposes, but we do want to collect this information, so it is a required question. So once you have said that you've gone through here and it says verified eligible, then it's going to automatically pop open this enrollment status, because we don't want you to forget this step, because we want you to either enroll them, or if it says maybe verified not eligible, we just need you to set this information. So you would set if they're in school or out of school youth, and you would select one of the enrollment status options. And these are directly related to the items that are on the dashboard. So you can save it, and then you can also see the enrollment history. You can see I've been playing around with that one today. Okay. Some people I know have been busy in this area, and that's great. One of the things that they noticed is that this section had some extra words in there and had some extra stuff in there. So my programmer did make the updates, and this is in test, so you're not really going to see a whole lot here, but you can see what items are not complete. And one of the updates was to this activity, Employment 101 activities. And what we wanted to do is if the person doesn't have anything in their Employment 101 as in a saved plan, then it'll say not complete. But if they have anything in their saved plan, this is a screen capture from a production person, but I cut it all out because I didn't want to put real people personal information up there. You can see that this person didn't complete their NOCTI. They completed the pre-assessment, and then you can see this person doesn't have a interest inventory. But they do have something saved in their employment plan. So if there's something saved, then you can just click on their employment plan to see that there was something that was saved. And you can see that they had their post-assessment. They scored over 70%, so they get a certificate of completion. So those of you that have already been actively looking at and reviewing this information, I just want to let you know that those updates are out there and in production. Now, we've had some people, not a very, very small, and I don't even know if it's for this program, but the topic has come up that a person says that, well, I know that they did their Employment 101, but it's not there. We have lots of people that are completing the pre-assessment and post-assessment and their activities every single day, and we test that every single day, and we haven't had any problems with saving that information technically. But one of the issues that has come up is that sometimes the customers have multiple accounts, and so we want to make sure that they're using the same account all the time. And we want that for multiple reasons. But the main obvious reason is that we have a specific account assigned to you and your group, and their application is all linked up to it. And you have access to be able to view that information. If they do that in a totally separate account, because those are tools that all of our customers can use, if they do that in a separate account, then you have no way of having visibility of that. And so there's two things. One, you can always help them with recovering their password or helping them with logging in. And in this example, you can see over here in the profile, you can give them their username. You have it right here in their profile, and you can reset their password. So either you can type in a temporary password, or you can have them come over to your computer, and they can type in their new password and confirm the password. Either way, but you do have the information that is needed in order for them to get a new password and to find out their username. If you happen to find out that a customer has put their information in a different account, let us know, and we'll see what we can do about merging that information or moving over information into one account. So that's that. And then what was the other thing? What was that? Oh, the other thing is that if you have customers that are going to be using, public computers or, sharing computers, basically in a computer lab or however, it's a good practice is when they're finished to go ahead and sign out, because I believe it's happened in the past with some other things, but I think there's one person in particular I'm kind of thinking this happened to them, is that the person before them didn't sign out, so they were in that person's account technically and, finishing Employment 101. So that's not a good situation. So general practice, always have your customers, sign out of their account, or just double check to make sure that they are the ones that are in their account, and they can always tell because their username is in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm getting there. Okay, so I see some discussion about NOCTI. We did look into NOCTI because there were some people that were, the scores weren't coming in. I was kind of confused. And they did notice that there were some where the scores weren't just coming through. And so they fixed those. But then they also said, NOCTI said, that there are some people who have ordered this 3-session NOCTI. And the reason why those scores aren't over yet is because they haven't completed the 3rd session of NOCTI. So I don't know if we just happened to catch it at a time period where, some people were in the midst of still going through and completing NOCTI in those 3 sessions, or if someone accidentally ordered the 3-session and they didn't realize it. Either way, I just want to bring it to everyone's attention and, just make sure that when we're going through and have questions, we just make sure we address it up front. So the one thing that you can do is when you're ordering your NOCTI, you go to My Dashboard, you go to Partner Tools, which I'm already on, so it's going to reload for me, right? So then what you'll see down here is NOCTI Administration, and then you will have the instructions for NOCTI. I mean, there's information about NOCTI, the customer guide that you can give them, the partner guide, and then the system requirements. You can order NOCTI in 1, 2, or 3 sessions. If you order it in 1, you have, regardless, no matter how you slice it, it's going to come up to you have 3 hours to complete NOCTI. If you order the 1 session, you're going to get it all 3 hours at one time, and it has to be done. You don't get any extra time added onto it. It has to be done within, you have to allow the 3 hours. If you do it in 2 sessions, you get the hour and a half, for each session. If it's in 3 sessions, you get an hour for each one of those sessions. Now, if you go ahead and order it in 3 sessions and a person wants to do them right back to back to back, that's perfectly fine. Same way with the 2 sessions, either way. But I just wanted to make sure that you're really understand which tests you had ordered. And then the classification, you're going to select youth. It's the same classification no matter what customer you have. It's just that whenever we compare data, you can compare, youth to youth, adults to adults, and so forth. If you need someone that needs text-to-speech, you can select that button as well. You enter the quantity, you enter your session code. 2718, and then dash 07-2018 for the testing date, and then I can request the assessments. And then you can see the testing information, and you can use the print business card. You can print it out and pass it out to everybody, or if you could have it up on the screen so that they can see, like the URL that they're going to. They need to either set up or log in. Well, in this case, you definitely don't want them to set it up because you want them to use the existing account that they have, and then entering their passcode. And once they do that, then they'll be able to go into NOCTI. Okay. Also, let's see here. Let me just look here. Is NOCTI showing up on my account now? Not seen in my customer file, but I'm getting their scores sent to me via email. Take the NOCTI on the day after. Yes. Oh, wait a minute. Can you take the NOCTI on the day after the test date for someone who could not take? Yes, most definitely. I think these codes, are good for months. I want to say maybe 60 days or 2 months or something like that. I can't remember how long they're good for. But if you're going to have a group of people coming in, you can order 30 or 40 or 50 of them, whatever you think you're going to order. You can go ahead and order so you don't have to order them, in as many batches. Just kind of got to keep track of how many you have. And it's not a showstopper. If you need one on the fly, you can always order it and use it on the fly. We did have some situations or recommendations for people. We used this with a different program and had like a high number of NOCTI assessments that were going to be used. And we did see a high number of them that, we had a program where they were going to use a lot of NOCTI assessments, and so one of the things we recommended is, just go ahead and print out those business card handouts for the number of NOCTI assessments that you have, and so you can pass them out, and then when you're done with those business card size handout invitations, then you're either getting close or you need to order new NOCTI assessments. Okay, so Cynthia, I did look at some of your people, and the scores were showing up. Let me just, I'm going to look at your account right now. So I'm moving this out of the way, and I'll share my screen again. Hey, Jay, if you could put in which group you're with, then that'd be great. And for those who haven't already signed in, you can go ahead and do so. Let me go ahead, because Cynthia, I know that we had talked with you about this in the past. I did look up some of your customers, and okay. hey, Cynthia, send me, or type in the last name of the person, or the, sorry for the dead air time, but hold on. Oh, what is going on? Refresh my page here. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, Nicole, we can get rid of your, does hey, Cynthia, first name start with an A or D? Hmm. I'll have them look at this particular person, but yeah, I'll have to look at that particular person because this person has results. I know I looked at a few of them. Let me look at Project Oz real quick. And then, Jay, do you have either, well, probably either first name or a last name for Jones? Okay. Does it start with a B, J, first name B, J, or T? This, but this one says it was taken on the 6th, and so it takes 2 business days for them to get their assessment results. So it won't show up at a minimum until tomorrow.
That's helpful to know for our providers because it may be that there's just a lag time in getting that information, which I don't think I realized that either, that it took a little bit of time. So that might be something to keep in mind while kind of planning, the administration of the NOCTI and then follow up with youth, is that there may need to be kind of a gap in that in that participation where you could plan for the follow-up to be a couple of days afterwards.
Right. I do need to look at Cynthia's, some of her people, and see if there's any more, like in particular, the one that you were talking about.
Send you, maybe some specifics on the issue she's having, and I did want to check too, really quickly. Emma had a question up there. Says, I was just looking through my partner dashboard and isn't showing the correct number under the customer eligibility review, and I didn't know if you could speak to that as well, Natasha.
Emma, which group are you with? What's your...
Emma's with Jewish Child and Family Services. Am I right on that, or is it fine?
Okay.
I guess I shouldn't assume that.
Review. So under, isn't showing the correct number under eligibility review.
Which, and Emma may be actually off the call now, but
13.
See if we can get an answer for it.
That's because she doesn't have the FCRC question answered, I don't think. If I put this, let me just see. And then eligibility verified, save that. And then I think, I can't remember what, now I should remember what the number was before. Hold on. Yeah, I think it's because I just went in. I bet in each of these, if we go through, the FCRC question isn't, she might have gone through and verified eligibility earlier on before we had that. Yeah, Emma was a good ahead of the game type person, I guess you could say. And I didn't have the edit check on that FCRC question. So I think as long, Emma, if you're on the call, then let me know. Otherwise,
if she's not, I can. I'll try to make sure I pass on a solution to her, but or we can follow up with her.
Or I can just go in and update it all. I mean, she has that it's verified. She just doesn't have that it's. She has it verified, but she doesn't have like the customer. Like you have to have both things checked. So,
gotcha.
And let me just see. Yeah, that's what it is. I'll just go in and do it, and then she doesn't have to worry about it. But just so everybody else knows, you should know by now because it should give you an error message to let you know that it's required. So. Any other questions, or you couldn't really see what I was doing, and I apologize for that. But I wanted to make sure that I don't accidentally put like real customer information out there. But I can share my screen again, and I'll just show you on test exactly what I was talking about for those that are maybe. Under progress page, under verify initial eligibility, you just need to have both these checked. So say, the customer said this, and we just kept it, try to keep it consistent. You have to have both of them checked. In her situation, she didn't have this one checked, but it was before we had all the edit checks released to production. So that's why it wasn't showing up in the right section. Okay. Any other questions? All right, it's pretty quiet. Let me know if you need anything. I will look at Cynthia's information. If you happen to see something's not coming through how you expect it to, whether it's like the NOCTI results. Oh, one thing I do want to point out is that with the NOCTI results, whenever they successfully complete the NOCTI, then they will get a follow-up email from NOCTI to let them know that they have a digital badge and that they'll need to log in. I can't remember the wording because it's been too long ago, but basically they set up their account where they can access their digital badge. So we have this button here that says NOCTI Skills Digital Badge, and what it'll do, it'll take you directly to the place. It'll populate with the email that is in Illinois WorkNet, and then type in the password. So you, as a provider, won't be able to get directly to the NOCTI Skills Badge, but you'll be able to, show them how to get there, and they'll have that too. So, and then whenever they successfully complete the NOCTI assessment, then you'll be able to download their certificate of, their NOCTI certificate as well. All right. Well, if no one has any other questions, thank you very much, and we'll talk next week.
Thank you, Natasha. Have a good afternoon, everyone, and if you do have additional questions, please feel free to send those to info@illinoisworknet.com for some specific issues, and hopefully they can get those resolved. All right. Thank you for your participation. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.